It was shocking enough to learn after Grenfell that other buildings in London were covered in flammable cladding. Imagine going to sleep every night in a home which doesn't feel safe. But now a tribunal has ruled the residents themselves must pay nearly £500,000 to remove the cladding on their flats in Croydon. Some leaseholders could face an individual bill of £31,000. Tonight, pressure is growing on the government to help them. Rags Martel has the details.
What's it feel like living in a building which is just as dangerous as Grenfell?
Fearful. Anything can happen any moment. And if the fire catches up, then it will be as violent as what it was in Grenfell.
The problem is the cladding. The Citiscape apartment complex in Croydon is covered in the flammable type used at Grenfell. And Shrikant Allah is one of the residents facing a £31,000 bill to replace it.
How do you feel knowing that you are now liable to pay at least £31,000?
Sad, frustrated and angered very much. I don't know. I have to find the money now. I don't feel at all responsible to pay anything for the fault of others.
This building is considered so dangerous, fire wardens holding foghorns patrol the corridors 24 hours a day. Everyone agrees the cladding must go, but no one wants to pay for the cost of replacing it, which could be as much as £2 million. The dispute went to court, and this afternoon a tribunal ruled it's the leaseholders who are liable to pay for the recladding costs.
When Citiscape was built, this cladding was legal and thought to be safe. But since Grenfell, we now know it's dangerous and flammable.
But today's ruling does raise questions about the government's role in fire safety, mentioning errors in the cladding certification process, and goes on to say relevant building regulations were not fit for purpose.
Yeah. So, Steve, what have you got here?
We've got a certificate that basically says the government is responsible for putting this kind of cladding on buildings like Citiscape and Grenfell.
MP Steve Reed goes further. He claims the government approved of similar dangerous cladding before Grenfell.
It's not the builder's fault, it's not the developer's fault, it's not the leaseholder's fault. The cladding went up because the government said it was safe, and we have a certificate signed by the chair of the government's fire safety expert panel that says it was safe, and this was signed 3 years before Grenfell Tower. So instead of trying to wash their hands of responsibility for what they've done, instead of abandoning leaseholders like the people who live here, the government needs to act now. They're responsible for this cladding being up. They must take responsibility for taking this cladding down. Nobody else owes a penny.
The government told us they're not in a position to comment on individual cases, but are keeping the situation under review. Firstport Property Services, who manage the building, say we must begin these essential safety works. If government plans to offer any meaningful support to affected leaseholders, we urge it to do so. 9 months after Grenfell, the urgent task of making homes safe has yet to begin here.
Residents being told they have to pay. What if they can't? What happens next?
Well, they're in a very difficult situation because they're effectively, their whole lives are in limbo. They're not only living in very unsafe properties, but if they want to move on, they can't sell. If they want to rent, they can't do that. And on top of that, they're facing these huge bills. And this is not unique. There are similar situations in Slough that we've covered. In Greenwich, there are 11 buildings there. The government said, after Grenfell, immediately after Grenfell, that lessons must be learnt. But 9 months on, for the people in Croydon, nothing at all seems to be happening. So probably more legal disputes and appeals still to come.
Rags, thank you. Thank you very much.